Hello, everyone, and welcome to Edison TV. My name is Jyoti Prakash, a healthcare analyst here at the Edison Group. We are joined today by David Veitch, the CEO of Basilea Pharmaceutica, and Adesh Kaul, the company's CFO. Basilea is a Switzerland-based commercial stage specialty biopharma with expertise in the area of anti-infectives. David, Adesh, thank you for joining today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So to kick off, Basilea recently reported strong first half 2025 results with a 36% year-on-year revenue growth. David, can you briefly discuss some of the key highlights from these results?
Yeah, thank you, Jyoti. The 36% total revenue growth was really made up of two buckets. Yeah, one was the commercialized products, Cresemba and Zeftera, which are growing nicely at 24% growth, first half 25 versus first half 24, driven by Cresemba, our invasive fungal infection drug, showing it really is meeting an unmet medical need. And then the second part of that growth, the total revenue growth, is actually the other revenue, which actually is, as a result of reimbursements from BARDA and CARB-X, which actually just show the fact that the value of our relationships with CARB-X and BARDA in terms of offsetting the costs of our R&D expenses for our development stage assets. And so, that's really the reimbursement from the increasing reimbursement from BARDA and CARB-X. And those two factors together have resulted in this total picture of 36% growth.
That's great. And my next question is for you, Adesh. Zeftera's US launch earlier this year has been a key milestone for Basilea. What kind of early market response have you seen, and how does this align with your expectations?
Thanks a lot for the question. Yes, indeed, very important milestone. Maybe to put that a little bit into perspective. So the period between executing our partnering agreement with Innoviva Specialty Therapeutics and having the product commercially available in the US was less than 6 months. This impressive achievement was only possible because the collaboration between Innoviva and us works seamlessly on all levels. The actual launch of the product actually happened then by a fully trained field force in July. In order to really enable this successful launch in such a short period of time, there needed to be a lot of things in place. Product needed to be available, promotional material had to be prepared, the medical and sales teams had to be trained, and market access had to be in place. Given that all this happened very quickly, we are very, very pleased with the progress that we're seeing and the reception that the product has. It's still very early in the launch phase, but the early signs are very encouraging. And Innoviva was actually able to report first sales even prior to the actual launch, which again speaks for the medical need that is being addressed by Zeftera and the capabilities and the collaboration of our partner and how we are working with them.
That's great. Thank you so much, Adesh. My next question is related to your novel antifungal asset, Fosmanogepix, which is positioned as a key future growth driver for the company, and 2 global phase 3 trials are now underway, alongside an expanded access program. So, David, maybe I can ask you this one. What drives your confidence in the asset, and can you touch upon the real-world data which you've gathered so far from the expanded access program?
Yeah, Fosmanogepix for us is key. We've got commercialized products, but obviously the lifeblood of a biotech is the pipeline behind your current commercialized products. And Fosmanogepix, we were interested since about 2016, and we were glad to finally get our hands on the asset in 2023, in-license the product, and actually we in-licensed it based on the preclinical and early clinical data we saw in phase 1, phase 2, the activity, the efficacy, the side effect profile of the asset. It's a novel class compound. It's available IV and oral. There was nothing to dislike about the product. Like I said, we wanted it for a long, long time. So we're glad we could finally get our hands on it. In terms of where we are now, as you correctly say, 2 phase 3 studies ongoing, actively recruiting patients. And then the expanded access program, which is sort of like in parallel to the clinical phase 3 program. That's got over 300 patients currently who've been, received Fosmanogepix in that program. And I'll just highlight one example because we've reported several sort of examples of data from that at different scientific meetings. But probably one of the most interesting for me was a fusarium cohort of patients that were treated on Fosmanogepix, US patients who've been administered the drug, with fusarium infections, and actually they versus the population of patients before Fosmanogepix was added to standard of care, the mortality rate decreased significantly when you added Fosmanogepix to standard of care versus standard of care alone. So in this one single pathogen infection of fusarium, you can see there's a real clear benefit of Fosmanogepix, and for us that just excites us on top of the ongoing clinical studies that are going on. And so we are, as you can probably tell, we are very excited about this.
Exciting developments indeed. Thank you so much, David. And moving on to the next question, which is related to your recently in-licensed phase 3 ready oral antibiotic. And Adesh, maybe you can answer this question. How do you balance risk versus return when deciding on which assets to acquire? And how does this acquisition fit into the company's overall strategic plans?
Thank you. And I'll address this first more from a general perspective before getting specifically to ceftibuten-ledaborbactam, our latest acquisition. With respect to the return dimension, we're always looking at novel assets from the perspective of medical need addressed and differentiation. Given our business model, it is also important to us to have a high conviction that we will be able to partner the asset once it has been successfully developed and approved in the market with capable commercialization partners. From a risk perspective, it helps that we have more than 2 decades of experience in developing anti-infectives. This is key for the risk assessment. So we then take basically the risk and return perspective and structure our transactions in a way that allow us to share basically the risk and the return between the parties by having limited upfront payments and pre-approval milestone payments, but then on the other hand, royalties and commercial milestone payments once a product comes to the market. More specifically, with respect to ceftibuten-ledaborbactam, it actually ticks all the boxes in this respect. So it could be potentially the first oral beta-lactam, beta-lactamase inhibitor combination in the market addressing multi-drug resistant gram-negative infections in complicated UTI, which is a high unmet medical need. And it is therefore also clearly differentiated as being potentially first in class. Secondly, from a structure perspective, I would say it fits perfectly in what I described before. So we are basically paying less than 15 million Swiss francs in upfront and pre-commercialization milestones, and only once the product is on the market, there will be royalties and potential commercial milestone payments to our partner, Venatorix.
Excellent. And Adesh, maybe you can take this next one as well. Cresemba, which is your lead asset, continues to deliver strong, broad-based growth. How do you plan to sustain this momentum, and how should investors think about revenue evolution beyond Cresemba?
Thanks again. So first of all, for the foreseeable future, we expect continued strong growth momentum. Actually, what is very impressive is if you look at the growth in the first launch market, which was the US, back in 2015, the drug is still growing 10 years later. In-market sales are growing still double-digit. And we're seeing similar patterns across the world. So the drug has as such is still addressing a high unmet medical need. We have growth momentum in established markets and then also in new markets that have more recently been launched, where the drug has moved beyond the launch phase, like China and Japan, where we're not only seeing increasing sales contributions and growth contributions, but also we expect actually growth contributions beyond the loss of exclusivity for Cresemba in Europe and US towards the end of 2027. So therefore, we expect that Cresemba revenues will peak around 2027, and then we will see a decline over time. How steep that is going to be remains to be seen, but overall, we will have other products that will have to take on the baton, and there comes into play the assets that on the one hand David was mentioning, Fosmanogepix, but then also our recent addition to the pipeline, ceftibuten-ledaborbactam, which both could actually start contributing revenues around 2029 and would have exclusivity for an over 10-year period. So we would have basically Zeftera in the US, which we also discussed at the very beginning, that still enjoys exclusivity until 2034. We expect that to keep on growing up to that point in time with our capable partner, and Fosmanogepix and ceftibuten-ledaborbactam, provided they're successfully developed, would then also drive future growth beyond 2029.
Basilea has had a strong collaborative relationship with BARDA. David, what are your thoughts on the recent funding cuts by the HHS, and do you see any potential impact on the anti-infective space?
We've been working with BARDA for probably around 10 years or so, and this stems from the fact that BARDA is interested in our assets, the various assets we've had in the different programs that they've supported, and we've had an incredibly constructive partnership with BARDA, and the day-to-day working relationships continue. And they continue to fund our program that we've got currently with BARDA. I mean, what I would just say is probably the best evidence of that is the fact that we received during the first half of 2025, the second tranche of funding under our current OTA to support the ongoing development of Fosmanogepix and BAL 2062, and that was for $39 million. And that just, I think, is indicative of the fact that the BARDA continue to believe in this program and want to fund it going forwards.
So just to wrap up, David, what are some of the key catalysts and milestones investors can expect from Basilea in the next 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, we sort of, to build on something Adesh said earlier, and these are in no order of sort of priority really, but in terms of just the things that we're focused on in the next 12 to 18 months. One is preparing for the ceftibuten-ledaborbactam phase 3 study, which we said at our half-year results call would take around 18 months to get sort of started because of the various activities we need to do to get that phase 3 study started. So that's one thing and one milestone, therefore, in 18 months, the start of that phase 3 study. And then it's the ongoing progress of the phase 3 program for Fosmanogepix. It's the continuing to drive, as Adesh would say, about Cresemba, he was mentioning that. It's continuing to drive the Cresemba and Zeftera US opportunities forward, so revenue growth there. And then we will selectively look to in-license or acquire additional assets to fulfill this dual criteria of being novel, innovative, but also commercially viable, and also seek ongoing funding, non-dilutive funding for our portfolios, which we've successfully done in the past. We will continue to do that. And we believe, therefore, over the months and years to come, we will be seen increasingly as a real leader in this anti-infective therapy area.
Excellent. David, Adesh, thank you for your time today. We look forward to following Basilea's pipeline progress and commercial expansion. For audience interested to learn more about Basilea, please refer to our website, edisongroup.com.